bloody weekend in the regional capital of the crisis-stricken northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon last night. Gun battle left at least 4 persons dead, and gun battles have continued between separatists and state forces. We'll bring into you details with our correspondents in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. And out of the country, over 240 inmates escaped in Kogi State in the Federal Republic of Nigeria after unidentified gunmen stormed a detention center in that part of the country. Stay with us. Guns continue raging in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon in the context of the close to 5-year-long armed conflict going on there in the southwest region, and in the last gun battle between non-state armed group fighters and state forces in the regional capital of the northwest region, at least 4 persons died. That was last night. Details with our correspondent in Bamenda, Bustela.
At the Finance Junction in Quen, Bamenda 3 subdivision, lies the bodies of 4 men with fetish-looking objects known here as Odeshi, fixed on the body parts of 3 out of the 4. Within this crowd of onlookers are those who say this is the result of the heavy gunshot sounds they heard at Chest Street in Bamenda 2 subdivision. Sporadic fightings between the defense and security forces and the separatist fighters have lately been reported in many parts of the Northwest region. In Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest region, gunshot sounds and those of explosives are becoming the most regular sounds heard, with many dying. These 4, reports say, are not the only killed during last night's shooting in Bamenda. In the week just ending, dozens amongst them are crippled, have been killed, and others kidnapped. At the time of this report, the identities of those killed last night are yet to be ascertained.
Traveling through the risky high sea remains the only way to and from Mundemba in the Indian Division, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. There is no land road leading to that part of the country. And speaking at the market in the Indian Divisional Headquarters, Mundemba, the senior divisional officer for Indian Division 41, Lawrence, says that the traders, business persons in general, are suffering because of this difficulty, coming to add to all the challenges linked to the unstable socio-political and security climate in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country. With details for me, I'm Sonsanda.
The divisional headquarters, Mundemba, like the rest of the Indian Division, has been disconnected from the rest of Cameroon by land transportation and telecommunication. Since June 22, 2021, mobile telecommunication network signals have been severed from the area, and the senior divisional officer says the situation needs urgent intervention.
We are calling on the powers that be to reinstate all these facilities. I am also aware that as from today, the 11th, there will be no electricity in Mundemba town and its environment due to the shortage of fuel at a new thermal station.
As an effect of the armed conflict rocking the northwest and southwest English-speaking regions of Cameroon, coupled with a deplorable state, road transportation network has become an unwanted option for locals in the area.
I have been told that there are a lot of challenges, especially the challenges of how to bring in their goods because of the absence of road. We all know that goods and persons enter Mundemba only through the high sea, with all the risks that it takes.
To talk to the people directly and measure the effects on their socio-economic lives, the senior divisional officer Forwan Lawrence visited the Mundemba periodic market.
I also saw a lot of women and men selling textbooks and books, selling uniforms.
Meeting one-on-one with traders and listening to their worries, The Senior Divisional Officer Fowan Lawrence says the people have a positive mindset and the town of Mundemba is waxing strong despite all.
Enormous material damage recorded, circulation of vehicles perturbed in the Konsamba in the Mungo division of the littoral region of the country as a result of the heavy downpour that hit the locality, bringing down several electric poles. It is with Equinoxe.
This is a consequence of the heavy rainfall that hit in Konsamba in the Mungo division of the littoral region recently. An electric pole termed rotten by locals bows to the heavy rains, destroying a private vehicle.
Ce sont des poteaux qui ne peuvent pas résister. Déjà pourris.
Several other fallen electric poles have plunged the inhabitants into darkness for days now.
Bientôt les quittances vont venir et des quittances exorbitants dont on ne connaît même pas. Mais nous payons seulement.
With the fallen electric poles and cables, there are fears of electrocution.
Nos enfants courent les risques avec la moyenne tension qui est allongée là au sol.
The affected Nkonsamba locals plead on new officials to replace the fallen electric poles with more solid ones.
The inhabitants of Pekadus, notably those living in Manjap Quarter, expressing concerns, worries over plans to forcefully evict them from the piece of land running or covering over 50 hectares that they have been occupying for decades today. They are being threatened with forceful eviction by an individual who is claiming ownership of the land. Mala Glory was there and she brought back this report.
They are gathered in fury as one man to block the roads to the authorities who plan to demolish their buildings. In unison, these people are ready to fight as they will not watch their several years of investment go down the drain.
Morning we saw the police people, they were here today. They said they wanted to come and block the whole of the house here in Manjap.
These are the inhabitants of Manjap, Pekadus in the Douala 2 district. They are in anger over plans to demolish their houses and seize their lands which they acquired years back. According to the quarter head, a certain Mr. Ningancha is brandishing some land titles, saying the land of over 50 hectares belongs to him. I have been here for over 21 years and others are here since 1987. You can imagine how many years today. But it is this family who brought this man, Mr. Ningancha Augustin, to help them obtain a land title. This lady ran from the ongoing crisis in the Anglophone region to settle in this place for security purpose.
I'm from Kumba. We run war from Kumba. We come and buy our plot here to build our house. Now they say they want to drive or they want to scatter our house. Where did they want us to go with our children?
The victims say no effort has been made by the individual to dialogue with the people. All attempts by the Equinoxe team to get in contact with the accused was all in vain because of his unavailability. The locals therefore called for dialogue and the public authorities to intervene.
In the second week of the 2021-2022 academic year, in the Cameroon, several pupils and students in the crisis-stricken parts of the country, notably in the northwest and southwest regions, are still out of school, reason why administrative authorities and other stakeholders have been multiplying efforts to ensure that all students and pupils go back to school. And this is what the senior division officer of the Manure division in the southwest region was doing recently, and he called on parents to send their children to school. Smanjik and Gabriel.
It was a marathon visit taken by the senior divisional officer of Manure division to evaluate the effectiveness of the new school year in his area of control. At Government High School Mamfe, De Joseph met with students who still came to school with assorted dresses. He will later take them out to advise them on the importance to put on school uniforms before coming to school. De Joseph also had a brief session with teachers of Government High School Mamfe, telling them to be present in school on daily basis. In a whole, the Senior Divisional Officer of Manyu visited 6 schools, amongst them primary schools and lay private institutions. The turnout, however, in most of the schools visited by the Senior Divisional Officer, De Joseph, was low. If the schools are having a timid start in Mamfe Central, the enthusiasm is still to be felt in villages due to the ongoing insecurity in that zone.
The number of persons tested positive with coronavirus or positive for coronavirus is gradually declining in some African countries, including South Africa and Tunisia. These are countries that recorded the highest figures on the African continent, and the presidents of both countries have resorted to easing restrictions. Details with Immaculate Fogwe.
South Africa emerges from the deadly third wave of coronavirus infections. President Cyril Ramaphosa has eased key restrictions on alcohol sales, the size of gatherings, and equally allow persons to register themselves for the upcoming local government elections in November. The president further urged the population to get vaccinated as soon as possible to safeguard their health. President Cyril Ramaphosa further said the government would provide an update on its plan for vaccine passports in 2 weeks' time. South Africa leads the African continent as over 14.6 million adults have received at least one vaccine dose and more than 7 million are fully vaccinated. Though nobody can predict how the virus will mutate further, the scientific community has developed innovative ways of tracking the emergence of new variants. As of September 12, 2021, Tunisia registered a total of 685,019 confirmed COVID-19 cases since the beginning of the pandemic. The severe third wave infections forced the government to impose a lockdown in several cities. Over 167,000 COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in the country. The World Health Organization says a target of fully vaccinating 10% of the African population by the end of September won't be achieved unless supplies improve. According to the organization, only 3% of the African population is fully vaccinated. African countries have so far received 158 million vaccine doses.
Nigerian officials say 240 inmates have escaped after unidentified gunmen attacked a detention facility in Kogi State. It is the second jailbreak this year in Nigeria, a country struggling with multiple security crises. The attackers reportedly blew up the prison's perimeter fence to get entry, and Nigeria's prison service has said the gunmen were heavily armed and fought a fierce gun battle with the guards. Witnesses told local media that 2 security officers were killed at the security custodial center in Kaba, but this has not been officially confirmed. Investigations are underway to find the escaped prisoners and the gunmen who freed them. A total of 294 prisoners were housed at the medium security prison, which is located on the main road connecting the cities of Kaba and Lokoja. Majority of them were in pre-trial detention. And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Our guest today is a politician, special advisor to the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto Mutaga Silvanus Tifu. You're welcome.
Thank you a lot, Mr. Babula Jonathan, and thanks immensely to this media house for giving me the opportunity to edify Cameroonians on a good number of topics that are plaguing our nation today.
All right, maybe we'll start with some issues in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Here in one of the reports, the senior divisional officer of the manual division advising the students to put on their uniforms, telling them about the importance of putting on their uniforms while going to school.
It is very funny that he's advising those we know they are in a war-stricken zone and they are just barely struggling to survive, especially with regards to going to school. Because I think what the senior divisional officer should be telling us now is enlightening us on measures that he has taken with the security forces to ensure the security of those who will be going to school and not asking them to go to school in school uniforms. So we think that...
Of course, he reassured them about the security measures put in place by the state to ensure that they are safe while they are going to school and even back in their quarters and so on. But he thinks that it is important for them to put on their uniforms, to be identified, and possibly not to be mistaken with other persons.
Yes, it's important for them to wear their uniforms in order to be identified, in order not to be mistaken for other separatist fighters and all the like. But like I told you, desperate situations trigger desperate measures. Like I said, what we ought to preoccupy our minds now is ensuring the peaceful return of pupils and students to school and not burden ourselves whether they wear uniforms or not. Because we know wearing uniform, first of all, would be exposing them to sporadic attacks from the separatist fighters. And we know the separatist fighters, some of them are against peaceful resumption of schools. And they think that if students and pupils wear uniform, it would simply mean that they are obeying to the instructions of the what they call the Republic of Cameroon. So these pupils and students, they love school. So what we want is ensuring that they have means of acquiring the education. The teachers themselves, if they can go to school maybe in whatsoever means and feel more secured than exposing themselves to risks, I think the senior divisional officer should encourage it, because it is an issue of security at this particular moment, not an issue of beating our hands on the chest that, oh, there is resumption of school back, and when it would happen maybe in the days ahead, we hear that these students have been attacked like it happened in Kumba and all the like. So I think that if the students and pupils feel comfortable, feel secured at this particular juncture, we ought to encourage more of them to go to school, while trying to take security measures on how to protect them and the teachers who will be in school. So we know that the separatist fighters, it's difficult to contain them, because if the government has been struggling for over 4 years, 5 years today to contain the separatist fighters, and it's not easy. It's not just an easy thing to tell somebody, we want you to concord, we want you to behave like this and like that, and the people will hear you. These guys are desperate for education. They need education, and I think it's high time somebody told the Yaoundé regime that we need to adapt. When the desirable is not available, the available becomes the desirable. At this particular juncture, what they can make out to see that the pupils and students go to school, whatsoever attire they should go, I think what they ought to do is only ensure that the environment is secure, because
the children are secure.
The children are secure because they can go to school. It's one thing to go to school, but while returning back home and while going back home, these military officers, the gendarmes and all the like, would not follow them back home. So some of them can use assorted dresses. We don't even know how they hide books to go to school. So it's complicated to just tell them, wear uniform and expose yourself to risks.
And last night was a deadly one in the town of Bamenda. Corpses were discovered this morning, and sources indicate that the corpses are a result of gun battles between the non-state armed groups and the security and defense forces.
Mr. Babula Jonathan, it's high time we stopped pretending that all is well in the northwest and southwest region. If somebody tells you that there is calm in the northwest and southwest region, I will tell you it is a lie from the pit of hell. That's why the CRM is bent on cajoling, using all mechanisms to push this government to call the separatist leaders to a table of negotiation and subsequent dialogue. So without negotiations and dialogue, there would be no peace in the northwest and southwest region. We know that for certain. Many legal minds, many political leaders, and even religious leaders have echoed that out on different platforms, and the government, the Yaoundé regime of Mr. Biya, is very adamant. They are not willing to succumb to all diplomatic partners' advices, pieces of advice they have given them, that the only way out for the war or the crisis in the northwest and southwest region is to identify the partners to that war. We have Ayuk Tabe in the prison. It's not difficult for them to trace him. We have other people like the John Ba Akuro, who are in Nigeria, are willing to come to the table of dialogue. But the issue now is going to a table of dialogue at a neutral ground, where they know that their aspirations, their different wishes, or maybe their points will be taken into consideration, where they wouldn't be in a precondition to dialogue or for dialogue to hold.
Where there will be freedom.
Where there will be freedom to
and
express
another,
themselves.
Beside the crises, developmental challenges, the Indian division, Mundimba, has no land road. The only way to get there is through the risky high sea. And apart from that, there are issues of network. MTN, Orange, communication networks absent in that part of the country. We have the senior division officer of Indian division talking about this.
If we talk of road networks, we know that even in the city of Douala, where most of us have been living for most close to 3 decades today, you find that there is still that problem of poor road network. So we ask ourselves, what is wrong with the Ministry of Public Works and all the like? So it's not only in the suburbs. You yourself, you can bear witness with me that it's not possible in Douala. Take, for example, around the neighborhoods of Ndokoti to Quartier P14, or maybe from Ndokoti to Yassa. You understand that the road from the airport to Yassa, even which they said it was going to be an expressway, over 4 years today, billions of francs of CFA have been, maybe, whether would I say they have been squandered or have been embezzled and all the like. So it's the same problem nationwide. We know that the Anglophone crisis sparked out amidst road network problems in the northwest region, poor road infrastructure. We have
and the case
lack
of
potable water.
The case of Mundimba in particular is just a complete absence. People have to go through the high sea to get to a locality in Cameroon. No land road, no facility, no transport facility, even through the high seas, even for government officials.
It makes life difficult, and let me say it's miserable for those who are living there. And we think that the government has deliberately decided to abandon these people, because the 2 English-speaking regions, they are basic things which we know that those are the things that cause the crisis in the north, in those regions. We have problem of potable water. We have the Anglophone, Anglo-Saxon system of education, the judicial system, and all the like. So within these 4 years, it would have been a priority for the government to ensure that they accredit these people with these facilities. But like I said, we shouldn't forget war is going on. And if somebody tells you that like this, it's possible to construct any road in the northwest and southwest region, I will still say it's a lie from the pit of hell. We should stop camouflaging, because if you look at the Babaji stretch of road to Bamenda, 5 years, with all the security guarantees that the governor of the northwest region, the minister of territorial administration, all the stakeholders have been, the
road is still in a bad state.
The road is still in a bad state, and it's practically difficult to cross through.
In the meantime, your comrades are still in detention. Your comrades, the spokesperson of Professor Maurice Campton and Professor Alain Foguet and others, they are still in detention. What about them? Recently, the lawyers said, we are no more handling this case. We are no more pursuing this case. What's happening?
Mr. Babula Jonathan, it is acrimonious. It is, let me say, it is cynical what the lawyers have been observing with the trials of some of our comrades, political friends at the Yaoundé Central and Principal prisons, some of them at the New Bay prison in Douala, and others at Yoko, others at Mbamayo, others in Bafoussam. You can't imagine somebody that was arrested in his residence, private compound, like we can put it, a PC, Bibum Nisak, for example, and they will charge him of things like late charges of terrorism, insurrection against the fatherland, hostility. You can name a whole host of others. And if you ask the legal, let me say, backings, the support, the tangible evidences to really support the allegations or the charges against them, you find they are baseless. So if they were to say that these guys launch an illegal march, like they always say, illegal protest march, the law says it's 6 months if they think that the march was illegal. But like I told you, the Cameroon Constitution in Article 45 tells us that treaties and accords which are duly ratified by Cameroon have superior nature to, order to the national laws of Cameroon. And we know that we are not more under the regime of authorization, we are under the regime of declaration. Over 372 applications, or let me say demands for peaceful protests by the CRM since 2019 were blatantly, categorically, let me say, rejected. And
now, what is happening with the cases that were before the courts? Why are the lawyers taking off their hands?
Let me explain. Let me take example of the case of our political friends, Mr. Bibun Isak and Professor Len Fogue. Once they appeared at the Yaoundé military court, and you can imagine that even other detainees of other crises, let me say the Anglophone crisis, you can imagine that the case was postponed simply because they told them that there wasn't adequate lighting system. You know exactly what it means to play with somebody's life, and they tell this adequate lighting system. And you find that the lawyers themselves, after having formulated due requests for what they call unconditional, that's conditional release, habeas corpus for political prisoners, friends in the prison, it's not yielding. That's the same thing with some of us who were arrested in 2019. You will imagine that we among the over 500 of us who were arrested, nothing was, not a single militant of the CRM benefited from what is known as habeas corpus. And you understand that these magistrates, they have their hands tied. It's like
that's why the lawyers have decided to take off their hands from the case, and of course you continue pressing for all the irregularities that you're highlighting to be corrected, so that things can be done properly.
This is not a case that can be even done by their decision for release cannot be through the court, because we know that it's from a political will. They were arrested.
All right.